swinging London, the birthplace of miniskirts, Beatlemania, and apparently a lot of questionable life choices. Today, we're diving into the wonderfully odd and surprisingly cheeky world of Call It Carol, a 1970s British exploitation flick that manages to be both sleazy and strangely charming. If you've ever wondered what happens when two small-town dreamers take on the big city and lose their moral compass, well, buckle up. This one's a ride. Our hero, or should I say reluctant anti-hero, is Joe Sickles, played by Robin Askwith. Yes, the same Robin Askwith who later cemented his legacy as the star of the Confessions films. If you've seen those, you already know. This guy specialises in playing lovable rogues who are always just out of their depth. Joe's joined by his girlfriend Carol Thatcher, played by Janet Lynn. Together, they leave their quiet village to chase fame, fortune, and, because it's the 70s, probably some free love in the big city. What could go wrong? Spoiler alert, everything. While Joe struggles to find work, Carol's career takes off. Well, sort of. She quickly moves from innocent modelling gigs to a career path that involves fewer clothes and more, let's say, creative compromising. Naturally, Joe becomes her manager, which is just a polite way of saying pimp. The film doesn't shy away from showing the darker side of the swinging 60s dream. For every glittery moment, there's a scene of Carol and Joe realising they're in way over their heads. Think of it as the grittier exploitation cousin of Smashing Time. And let's not forget the supporting cast. We've got Jess Conrad as a sleazy socialite, Stubby K as the hilariously named Rod Strangeways, and even Pete Murray playing himself. Sure, why not? And who could forget when Carol's dad inquires if she's still a virgin by asking if her maidenhead is intact before she heads off to the big city. When she casually admits she's not, he just nods, hands her £20, and wishes her well. It's an oddly pragmatic, very British reaction that somehow manages to be both shocking and weirdly funny. Only in a movie like this could such a scene exist. The film was shot on location in Sussex and throughout London, giving us a mix of quaint village life and gritty city realism. It's a time capsule of 70s England, complete with bell-bottoms, dodgy wallpaper, and more dry lip-licking than anyone asked for. Seriously though, what was that about? Thanks for the nightmares, Peter Walker. Let's talk a bit more about Robin Askwith. By the time he starred in Call It Carol, he was carving out a niche as the go-to guy for bawdy British comedies. The Confessions series, Confessions of a Window Cleaner, Confessions of a Driving Instructor, and so on, cemented his reputation. Was he Britain's answer to the sexploitation boom? Maybe, but you've got to hand it to him. He had charm, and he never took himself too seriously. That charm is on full display here, even when the script occasionally veers into so bad it's good territory. The dialogue is delightfully cringeworthy, the plot is absurd, and yet you kind of can't look away. Critics were less kind. The Monthly Film Bulletin called it entirely an aphrodisiac, which is just a fancy way of saying not sexy at all. Others dismissed it as crude and absurd, though they grudgingly admitted it had a sense of humour. And honestly, isn't that what we're all here for? By the end, our naive couple decides city life isn't for them. They pack up their shattered dreams and head back to the countryside, presumably to recover from all the trauma. It's a bittersweet conclusion, but at least they survived. So, what's the verdict on Call It Carol? It's a curious mix of gritty realism, cheeky humour, and awkward charm. A time capsule of 70s Britain that's as fascinating as it is flawed. Sure, the plot's a bit absurd, and the moral lessons are questionable at best, but at its heart, it's a tale of two dreamers trying to navigate a world that chews them up and spits them out. It's not a masterpiece, but it's got personality, and sometimes that's enough to keep you entertained. If nothing else, it's proof that Robin Askwith can make even the sleaziest situations a little more charming. So grab your bell-bottoms, lower your expectations, and give it a watch. It's swinging London like you've never seen it before. Awkward, unpolished, and just a little bit endearing.